Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Loki Orin, and I made a couple boo boos with this recording. First of all, as you can see, I record this game in segments, and unfortunately, I started the mountain. I even made sure to move the wagon forward, hoping that it would save, but it did not. So we are back in the inn. Our gear is reset. This wasn't intentional, and honestly, I think the final outcome we end up about the same or weaker. So is what it is. But in this case, the second boo boo was I had a mic issue that I did not realize until after I'd already recorded, so all of my audio is gone. So in this case, I'm going to be doing a little bit of voiceover, but unfortunately, the full commentary is lost to history. So far, we're just going through the in items, tried to remove the negative quirk realist on Bonnie, put our health item, the invigorating stew, on Audrey and Paracelsus. And this time, interestingly enough, we did get to use the knotted rope on Paracelsus and Bonnie. So we did get that set up, and we threw the ceremonial drum stitching kit around, just healing up various people. And the clarifying poultice we'll get to in a second, but we end up putting it onto Paracelsus because she does have the lowest stun resistance of the squad. So as I spend food here just to fix everyone up, we can look in and see our shop. And unfortunately, none of the trinkets are particularly useful. The only one that's even worth looking at for us at this point is the 10% stun resistance. But that's not going to cut it. So I end up buying it toward the end, but we're not gonna make use of it. And elsewhere, the wild tea, potentially useful to remove a negative trait. The armor smith kit to give tokens to various folks. Or give tokens to one of our characters. We'll use on Boudica immediately. And yeah, looking through real quick, I'm thinking about the trinkets, and just having Paracelsus on the Sparkle Ball Sapper combo is really nice. And as I'm right here, I'm just plotting out where these trinkets are gonna go, and thinking through which ones I want to keep. Thinking about the Smoldering Hymnal for a second, it's a good item. 33% chance for an extra action is pretty nice. But in this case, we're just not. The final fight is 4 guys. They don't. It's not like I'm going to combo 2 of them down in a turn, so it just ends up not being what I want to use. So I realize, I think about for a second putting on the 20% damage to increase Bonnie's damage, and then decide just to keep the hymnal on for now, because we do have the 2 cultist fights. The ultimate decision is keep all the trinkets as they are, and then when we go into the final Chains of Despair fight, we'll swap trinkets around. And here you see we put the clarifying poultice onto Paracelsus after checking everyone and realizing she has the lowest stun resistance. Thus, getting her to 50% means that we have the option of keeping her other 2 trinkets on, because 50%, 70%, I'm willing to gamble on a coin toss. So here we're looking at trinkets again. Unfortunately, not much to use. So really, it's just we buy the 10% just to have it. Whittling tools to knock off 3 more stress. None of the combat items are particularly good, and we already had an armor kit on the person we wanted to have an armor kit on. So in the end, it was basically a waste of money. None of these negative traits are really worth removing, and a lot of the positive traits are decent. So we end up just letting it be, and we end up just deleting the wild tea and whittling to fix Boudica. We'll zoom through Masteries here. There's not a lot to say. We were very lucky on this run with the number of Masteries we did have. So we have every skill I want upgraded. There are a couple that I end up deciding we upgrade Ransack just because. I mean, at this point, we may as well upgrade everything. And here I actually decide to upgrade Backdraft, which I do end up using in the final fight once, because I initially didn't trust myself on it. But Cauterize isn't particularly useful against the Chains of Denial because while there is a chance of bleed happening, there isn't much of one. So Cauterize is sort of a dead skill, whereas Backdraft is damage. It's a bit annoying to set up, but the Chains of Denial is a boss where you do have a substantial amount of time to put a bunch of burn on a character. So there we go, we take Backdraft. Nothing on the Grave Robber worth upgrading. Looking at some of the skills just to think about it, but end up deciding none of them are going to get us across the line. And here was actually the MVP of the run that I didn't think about, was upgrading Indiscriminate Science. We'll see more of that later, but Indiscriminate Science ended up surprising me with how good it was, which maybe isn't a news to other folks who were playing, but it was something I've never used before, and I was very impressed with just the added level of healing it provided. So we will we check out our Wainwright. There's nothing to do. There's 2 food. Nothing we can do with. We've got our trinkets. Got this 20% sharpness charm, and here I actually make a connection. The 20% damage is better than 20% damage on just ranged attacks. So I eventually figure it out. And anyway, it's off to the mountain, where I do my classic Dungeon Master introduction, leaving the safety of the inn, facing down the blizzard, the cold heart of the mountain, your companions ready their weapons, etc., etc. I do play D&D, I Dungeon Master a fair bit, and it's just a fun way for me to get into this. The first time I recorded for Darkest Dungeon, I was practicing, so I was just doing some dummy clips to get some practice in, and I was struggling with how to start. And I said, well, what do you know? I was like, well, I know how to do Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I was like, okay, just do that. So we, casually running through here to the first cultist encounter. And this one, we have an interesting choice here. Boudica is unhappy with Bonnie's choice. And Paracelsus is not. And Paracelsus is another option. So rather than risking damaging a relationship for a dodge token, it looks like I could have taken the strength token, but I decide not to chance it because I see that Paracelsus is positive with at least Boudica and Bonnie as well, and that heals that relationship slightly, which ends up being a nice thing. Excuse me. So here I actually missed initially that the Flesh of Warps, I'm so used to being 50% melee that I did not realize that our Deacon friend did minus 50% range damage, which is really not going to help him. So we get rid of the 75% dodge token, put an Iron Swan on there, which conveniently puts the Cherub, when we play Grenade, to dead. And this fight ends up going very well, in part because of that just how quickly we managed to neutralize some of our enemies here. Bonnie puts up Smokescreen, aiming for that blind to just mitigate some damage. And the Evangelist moves to the front as is normal. And here's the first, that nasty Sundering Steel. But, 19 damage on a character that's healing 12% a turn. It's not too bad. And we just have Audrey start working down the Evangelist. Because again, at this point, I hadn't noticed that it's 50% range damage. And I realized the Evangelist is going to hit Death's Door on its own here. So we pull up the Howling End, and I think, oh, it's going to do a bunch of damage. And I see it does 31. And then I make the connection. Oh, it's ranged attacks. So no wonder I did so much damage. And here, the Evangelist does get a worship token off. And, we need to basically make sure, we had the option here to make sure to try to kill it before it did that worship. But in this case, if memory serves, Flesh from Bone doesn't do a whole lot, and the Evangelist ends up not using the worship, which means that we end up finishing this fight round 3 with pretty minimal damage across the board. Our team is pretty sturdy at this point, with all the skills upgraded, all the trinkets, all the power. So debating which one to hit, and decide to take down the Evangelist to ensure that there's no more worship tokens. Toe-to-toe and decide to just eat the last Deacon attack, figuring maybe he gets the weak token, or at worst case he's going to hit the Hellion for not a lot of damage. And the Befuddling Sundial continues to heal. And with that, Audrey gets to finish the fight. Another nice crit. The combo tokens being nice. And yeah, there we go. So the first Cultist encounter ends on round 4, not 3. But basically on round 3 it was over. It was a very comfortable fight. And as we move into the second Cultist encounter, this one takes a little bit longer. This one just happens to be a little bit of a tougher fight, but we're given the choice of buff or no buff, which isn't much of a choice. So we pick up dodge tokens on all of our people, which is a nice starting point. And this one does do 50% melee mitigation, so this fight's going to last a lot longer. And here, I'm contemplating doing Firestarter on Paracelsus to get extra fire damage out, or spending a Smoke Bomb. I couldn't remember if I had a spare Smoke Bomb at this time, so I thought about spending that, thought about Firestarter. In the end, just decided to do Smokescreen, and unfortunately get super punished, get none of the bonuses, just the combo point. And then it's as before. Goal is get rid of that Cherub as soon as possible. Blight, Plague Grenade, get him ticking, and then nicely enough, our dodge tokens end up paying a little bit of dividends here. Not as much as we really want, and that's minimum damage on that Iron Swan, which kind of sucked. But we did mitigate a bit of damage with those dodge tokens. And Way of the Worlds comes out, mitigates just a tiny bit. And here I noticed the Boudica, our Hellion, is starting to get up fairly, a little bit higher stress. And, then, of course, immediately positive relationship tick comes in and the stress is no longer an issue. So the Cherub is 1 point away from dead. The Blight is Blight 4 and 5 HP. And I just take the opportunity saying, okay, the Plague Doctor can clean that up, so let's land use the combo token, land an 18-point crit on the Deacon, just do a bit of damage, take him to the Howling End for 19. So again, we've blown off most of this Deacon's health, which is very nice. And here Bonnie will put another 8 on and a burn, and basically put the Deacon to death's door. The Evangelist does what it does, and the Cherub dies. So here, Death's Door on the Deacon. And I was hoping against hope here that the Evangelist maybe wouldn't worship. But unfortunately, the Evangelist does, which restores the Deacon to 13. But that's fine. The Deacon already being this close to dead means that with relative speed, we're going to be able to work him back down. And just dotting him up, getting him back down to dead, trying to get the ticks, trying to make sure that we have him ticking. And the Hellion here just finishes the job. So the Deacon's down, the biggest source of damage. So we just have this Evangelist, which maybe does a bleed here. We were hoping, sadly not. And back up to 4 stress again. But there we see the Hellion healing for 5 each turn, and then another 17. So why stress? And here I gamble on the Howling End. End up missing. Probably should have used toe to toe there, but I mean at this point it just doesn't matter. And there's a 2 stress heal on the Hellion. These positive relationships are really paying off for us here. And at this point the fight's pretty formulaic. We get a nice hopeful proc there, which does hefty damage. And will basically put the Evangelist to death's door off the dots, giving it the weaken token, and doing, sort of minimal damage to our Hellion, who does pick up a bleed here. And I was checking there to figure out why is my Hellion stress going up so much, and the answer is a little bit of nervous and a little bit just luck. Get rid of the corpse for a free stress heal. Think about doing a heal. Realize that we could use Cauterize instead. And then I get to here and realize Cauterize is basically going to put her to full, but she's already basically at full, so this is kind of a waste. Probably would have been right or fine to do that, but whatever. We'll just end the fight. And that's both cultist encounters done, and now we're facing down, the final piece here. So you can see, immediately go to, okay, what are my combat items? Let's get the healing salves put in. Those will be valuable. We did have the spare smoke bomb, so we'll put that in on Audrey. We carried that ethereal dust, I think, from maybe the first zone and just never used it because we never needed to. But now we're doing trinkets. Befuddling sundials never coming off. And as much as the damage would be nice, getting her up to 40% stun resistance is good. Same for the hymnal. It's just not as good as mitigating the stuns. And then here, finally, the damage. And then we have the choice of putting 10 more on Paracelsus, but I decide that 50-50 is good enough. 50-50 we will take. And at that point, we destroy a couple of tokens, and we're driving into the mountain. But wait, I remember. Oh, right. Where is it? Come on. Come on, Loki, remember. There it is. Here, I remember. Oh, right, I had skills I wanted to swap in. Not on the Grave Robber. And we just swap out Cauterize for Backdraft. For an added source of damage. Nothing on the Hellion. And then this, again, the MVP here, swapping out Ounce of Prevention for Indiscriminate Science. Just a way to heal in addition to Battlefield Medicine. Was going to be, I decided was going to be substantive, and I turned out, I think, to be right. Because the Plague Doctor has all ranged attacks anyway, so we need a way to, we need other things for her to do. And being able to eat bad tokens and put health back on characters was just too good to pass up. So here we're just driving into the brain. Not much to say. It's it's a brain. It's got the stress symbol around it. It's not happy. And here we are at the Chains of Denial. I believe around here I make some comments about the Adeptus Sororitas and For the Emperor. Please don't sue me, GW. But getting into the fight, it's fairly straightforward. Our first denial is actually arms, which is pretty bad for the Sisters of Battle. A lot of our damage is melee, but nothing to be done about that. And here I make a choice I haven't been thinking about making a lot, but it ends up paying out, which is putting Absinthe on our Grave Robber, because that's three 75% dodges, and here our Runaway's getting blitzed down for some reason. Not entirely sure what she did to deserve that ire, and there's nothing for our Hellion to do but Raucous Revelry, which is kind of funny. And nor can our Grave Robber do anything but huck a Smoke Bomb. And then Firestarter, or I think I end up deciding to Firestarter, not Smokescreen, just to get the damage output going here. So I look at Indiscriminate Sciencing. I can heal her for 7. I could heal her for 9. And then I decide to gamble. Our Runaway right now has 90% death blow resistance. So why? Yeah, it has 90% death blow resistance. There's a reasonably good chance she'll make it a couple hits here. It's a little bit scary. She does end up at Death's Door, but we should be okay. And that did let us put a sizable amount of damage across the board here. Denial of Reach is fine. That's not too much of a stress point here. And now we just start whomping down locks here. And as before, I quickly pop a healing salve on the Runaway just to get her out of Death's Door. But as before, we're focusing down the Latch of Regret because so many of my skills are melee. And realizing that I'm not going to do any damage there, pop down toe-to-toe just to eat some damage onto the character that's going to heal and not be too concerned about it. And here, I think it's the first use of Indiscriminate Science where I realize, oh, I can get rid of that Weakened token, so I get to do a little bit more damage and heal her for another 7. And that was, I think, the point that the skill clicked for me of, oh, I see how this skill is good. And more importantly, why this skill is good in this fight. Because they do throw out a fair number of tokens. So I increased my damage output there for more or less, you know, free, because I healed and then did that. And here we go, Denial of Reason, which is fine. I'm not that stressed about it. And here's where I look at Backdraft and I don't trust myself. So I see 20 damage and I think, oh, that can't be right. Why is it 20 damage? Now, the reason it's 20 damage is because that's 20, that is, 9 times 3, that's 27 damage on that front one. So it would be 20 damage. So I end up not trusting myself like a knucklehead. Throw out a smoke bomb and Searing Strike something. So that was me performing badly and not understanding the skill. So I apologize to everyone who had to watch that. And then, you know, unfortunately, I don't get to use Backdraft for some time after this, but that would have been the correct play there, is just to womp out 20 more damage. But it ends up not mattering in this case. And that Absent really paid off. That was three total attacks that our Grave Robber mitigated. And now we start with the Howling End, and the Latch of Regret is nearly gone. Planning to use Noxious Blast here, then remember, oh right, I have Firestarter, let's get a little bit more fire out there. And we're dealing some sizable damage over time here, which is nice. And here, unfortunately, our Runaway gets stunned. So I couldn't have known that, but that means that massive stack of fire that I had built up, I'm not going to get to burn away. And our Runaway goes back to Death's Door. Still at high Death's Door resistance, so, you know, can't heal her now, but she is pretty tough to kill. So we'll just continue to beat down the Latch of Regret, try to finish it off, and the blind token pays off there, even though our Grave Robber was going to tank it. Audrey, keep in mind, is at full health right now. And here we're just trying to slow down the gain of stress on the Runaway and continue to dot up. And here, the math works out. The Latch of Regret is dead. We just have the damage. And a nice little Amorous crackback there with a big crit on Incision for some fire and blight. So that ain't bad at all. Or maybe would it just be blight? It is just blight. My bad, I misspoke there. And we toe-to-toe here, just continuing to tank and get rid of that winded condition. I still think that's a very good first upgrade here. As weird as it is to not upgrade a stress heal in the first zone, in the valley, toe-to-toe is just so good on the Hellion. So here we take a moment thinking about what to do, thinking about, do I pop Absinthe again and just let her continue to be unhittable? And then decide, no, let's just get damage. Let's just get the damage going. Noticing the Shackle of Despair is already starting to get, you know, kind of towards halfway bloodied condition, as it would be said in D&D. So think about hitting it, but decide instead to just focus in on the one that is going to mitigate damage. So get rid of its name escapes me here, the Bolt of Lamentation, the one that casts Denial of Reach. And here, Indiscriminate Science paying off again. Nice big 11-point heal, plus getting rid of 2 weakened tokens is pretty good. So that, again, I'm learning. Our Hellion is unhappy about that, which is annoying, but not a problem. And here, I see 6 out of 6 damage. Now that I understand it, I'm like, okay, that's 6 is not enough damage when I could be fire starting or smoke screening. So we smoke screen here, get the blinds, get the combo, get the vulnerable. So we got the full kit there. And here our Hellion suddenly hits stress heal mode. And though that blind token does pay for itself right there. No healing, that's fine. Everyone's above Death's Door, so we're not planning to heal this round anyway. And I popped down a Laudanum just to try to stabilize our Runaway a little bit. She's been at high stress for a while. And here, I Magnesium Rain because I don't want to eat that vulnerable token with anything less than Howling End. then I realized the Hellion has a weakened token, so she's not going to be able to Howling End for very much anyway. So instead, we go with Pick to the Face. That's 65% chance to crit for 22. Thanks to the Vulnerable. That's a nice hit. And then here is the one bit of a yikes that comes in. We lose one of our positive relationships, but the other two maintain, and our Hellion melts down, which is fine. It ends up being just fine. Here I finally use Backdraft, understanding how it works. 9 damage, that's something. It's about the same as Searing Strike. Or never mind, no I don't. I misspoke. I wait till next turn, but I do think about it there at 9 damage. So that's my bad. And here Hellion can't do anything but toe-to-toe, so let's just toe-to-toe something. She just continues to tank. She's beat up, but she's still in the fight. And a nice dodge token there. Double dodge. Spending those dodge tokens just to mitigate... Or I guess that was a blind there. And here, Denial of Reason, so we can't stress heal. So our runaway's sitting at 9 out of 10 stress. So she is roiling, but... Here we can start working down some of the others, keep the damage going on the final lock. Excuse me. And I think about healing, then decide that we just got to get the damage going. And here we get the 1 Sparkle Ball proc of this. Very nice to get. And here we go. We get the heal off of the relationship, which lets us Howling End, and that puts the Bolt of Lamentation down. And now here I finally Backdraft for 12. So Backdraft did get used. It was a lesson learned there. I need to make sure I understand skills before I talk about them. But here you can see, and I'm even kind of noting, both locks are mostly dead. So this ends up being just a very kind of formulaic end to the fight. All my characters are up. Action economy is way in my favor. And we just beat them down. Continuing to toe-to-toe, just to get rid of winded tokens and let my Hellion hit for more. Decide that I'd rather make sure the stress one is gone, and it is. And here, Audrey, being the MVP that she is, tanks a hit that was heading for one of our other characters and gets a bleed. So, hey, look, Cauterize might have been useful. But ends up not being that relevant as, the final lock is at an effective 7 HP. So as we enter round 9, fight's over. So yeah, as I let this run out, thank you all for watching. Sorry for kind of the scuffed ending here. Obviously isn't how I drew it up, but it is how it played out. So until next time, I've been Loki Oren. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate any comments or feedback. I'm always looking to improve and do better. And likes and subscribes, you all know the drill. It's how channels get noticed, how we measure performance. So yeah, this has been the Sisters of Battle. The shackles are destroyed, and until next time, see ya.